boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Small Folk, or I would like to rename How to Train Your Dragon. But this was another solid episode of not Game of Thrones, I was about to but House of the Dragon, same thing. But it was another solid episode. No, not much action in it, other than somebody getting barbecued in in the first part of the episode. But once again, this was more of a political uh, back and forth, like they always have in this show. I hear a lot of people complaining about that. That is no action in it. Oh man, where's the dragons? Where's this? Why is none of this happening? Well, the problem is people compare it to Game of Thrones, and it's not Game of Thrones. Yes, it's the same universe or whatever you want to call it, but this is more of a political show, and it focuses on the characters and the character building and uh, the intrigue and all that good stuff. The action comes, a little scarce, but it doesn't bother me. But I do read and I see a lot of people who are kind of turned off by that. But I don't know what to say. It's not an action thriller. It's a political satire, I guess you could say. I I enjoy it. In this episode, I would say out of all of the episodes, it's probably the weaker of this season, but it was still entertaining because it's still setting up so much. And I guess that's the point I'm trying to arrive at, that all this is set up. Everything that's going on right now is set up until this big crescendo when we do get an actual all-out war, the dance of the dragons as it's described in the book. And you know the setup seems to be amazing, that we are going to have a hoot natty of a showdown between the greens and the blacks. And so uh I'm loving what's going on. This episode, as I said, was entitled Small Folk, and we start off with we see a Lannister. We see one of the twins. We know that Tylan sits on the small council, but his twin brother Jason, who we seen in not episode, but season 1, trying to woo Rhaenyra when she was younger and didn't turn out well for him. Both played by Jefferson Hall, by the way. They didn't hire twins, but he's playing both of these characters, and he's enlisted by the Greens, of course, to help join forces and whatnot, march on Heimdall or Heimhall or whatever it's called, wherever Damon is. And he's like, cool, we'll do that, but I'm only going to do that if Aemon and his dragon come and accompany us. And so we go back to the small council where the Raven has sent the message, and Aemon is hot. Aemon is hot by this. He's like, man, who you think he is to enlist me? Call me out or whatever. And we see Allison trying to be diplomatic, trying to display some sense of diplomacy, and Aemon is power hungry at this point. He's power mad, I should say, and overrules her, dismiss the council. They have a back and forth. They being Aemon and Allison, and he basically tells his mom to go get back into the kitchen. He, like, you're fired from the council. It was one of the most cold-blooded scenes of the season. Decapitating baby aside, but this was so cold-blooded that you do this to your mama, man. Hey, look, we don't need you here. I don't need your help. Go sit down somewhere. And so that was that. Meanwhile, and I'm gonna go a little out of order here, to try to wrap it up real nicely. You have Aegon, who is in and out of consciousness, and this upsets Aemon. He's like, "Well, I thought you said he was out of, you know, he had a slim chance, that his days was numbered." But he's like, "Well, he's pulling through. He's strong, or whatever the case may be. Uh, he he, he might pull through." Well, Eamon ain't feeling that, because that would mean he he would have to relinquish his seat. And after all he did, basically burning his brother to a crisp, he was like, "Man, look, I'm not doing that." So he is basically setting it up to kill his brother. He's gonna finish his brother off in his sleep, I guess. At least that's what they're setting it up to be. So we cut to Damon, who is still having those visions in this haunted castle, and we get a breath of fresh air. At least it was for me, to see Patty Constantine return as Viserys in the visions of Damon, and I loved him in season one. Him passing away at the end of season one was heartbreaking to me, because I, I just enjoy him in everything he's in, and he fit in so perfectly on his show. And he was gone too soon in my eyes. So to get him, even if it's in the visions, was perfect for me. Basically, turning the mirror on to Damon, uh, having Damon just come to grips with everything he's done in the past. All the decisions he made in the past, and these are basically what these visions are: self-reflection of his decisions. Him learning from the mistakes that he made, or the ramifications of the decisions that he made in the past. And he hasn't yet come to grip with them. And I love how this is a visual representation of him working through his mental health, if you will. Meanwhile, we have Rhaenyra, who did the research. She went through the archives, and she found some blood, uh, uh, a bloodline that is connected to her, and is able to tame a dragon, to ride a dragon, because she's in desperate need of dragon riders. So she finds one who happens to be on the Queen's Guard, and he accepts the challenge. He was like, "Look, I sworn an oath to you, to give my blood, and die for you if I need to. So I'm willing to give this a shot." And so he tries to give it a shot and tame the dragon. And deep down, I knew what was going to happen in this scene. It was just the way the tension was built up, and you're sitting there just waiting for it to happen, and it didn't happen at first. It looked like the dragon was submitting to him, and he's like, "I did it." And the shoe, I don't mean to laugh at old boy, but as soon as he said, "I did it," the dragon just jumped up and just roasted him and one of the dragon keepers. And the dragon keeper, I mean, he went out like a soldier. While he was being toasted, he slit his own throat, put himself out of his misery instead of burning to death, unlike the Queen's Guard, who probably should have waited till he got on the dragon to make that statement. But it is what it is. That was pretty brutal, and it was soul crushing to Rhaenyra, who, I mean, went through all this work. Her and her son came up with this plan. All right, this is a genius plan. We'll get more dragon riders. We can overtake Aemon and the Greens, and we can get the throne back. Well, that shattered in an instance when when I think it was Sea Smoke, the dragon, the one that roasted him, put a monkey wrench in that plan. But I'm gonna jump to a scene that really was the scene of the episode, the line of the season to me. Rhaenyra is shaken up by what just took place. Uh, One of the lords on the council was reminding her of her mistakes that caused the guard, and the dragon flew off afterwards, so you lost a dragon, and he was just talking reckless, you know. He was just talking crazy to her, like, this is your queen, and you're talking crazy talk to her, talking to her like she's nothing, and she's trying. She's been trying to be calm, cool, collective with these people on the council for the longest, even though they talk down to her, don't really respect her, uh, basically undermining her in every opportunity. And all of a sudden, Rhaenyra turns around and just smacks the taste out of his mouth. I mean, slaps him to sleep almost. And she says the coldest line in House of the Dragon history to me. It's my fault, I think, that you have forgotten to fear me. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use, I'm gonna use that on somebody. It's my fault, I think, that you've forgotten to fear me. She was like apologizing for my bad. It's my bad. Cause I gave you the rope. I gave you the rope. Now I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut this rope because you need to know. You need to know who you talking to. Coldest line in the film. In the show rather. Loved it. Sea Smoke finds a rider, and I thought that was a cool little scene. They were trying to force a rider onto this dragon, and the dragon went off and found one on his own, which will be interesting moving forward. The small folk in King's Landing are getting upset. They're getting testy. There's no food. There's no money. And so they're starting to get a little testy with the greens. And Rhaenyra did another cold thing here. She sends food to the people there. She sends food to them and kind of getting them on her side. And well, ain't no kind of. She was getting them on their side to the point that they're angry now and they're lashing out against the Greens. So we get a scene where Allison and Helena are being escorted out of King's Landing because the small folk are overtaken. They have had enough. They've had enough, and they're rebelling against the Greens. Genius move by Rhaenyra. We get a scene at the end where Rhaenyra and what's the old girl name? Marias or Myris. I can't. I don't remember her name. But anyway, is pretty much her whisperer, and they have a back and forth that leads to them hugging, that leads to them kissing, to almost making out, and you're like, okay. You're like, okay, here we go. But one of the Queen's guards come in, interrupts, and informs Rhaenyra that Sea Smoke has been spotted and it has a rider. And so this prompts Rhaenyra to get on her dragon and fly off to find out who this rider is. And this is where the episode ends. Once again, a lot of interesting stuff happened in this episode. Very exciting. Real good setups. Not much action. Actually none. But it's a lot of setup to action that will take place in episodes leading to this season wrapping up. We only have a few more episodes to go this season, but it's set up to be something special. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this a lot. This episode, yes, very, very slow. Very slow episode. Probably the weaker of the 6 episodes this season, but yet great performances, great storytelling. I am fully invested on what will happen next. I would like to know, what do you think of episode 6 of House of the Dragon. Are you hyped up for what's to come? What do you think gonna happen with Allison and Helena? Where are they going? Where are they risking them off to? Or are they going to where Otto is, to their homeland or whatever? I would love to know where that's leading up to. What do you think Rhaenyra is going to do when she finds out who is riding the dragon, and what's up with Damon? Are we ever going to get Damon coming back and apologizing to Rhaenyra? So many questions. Can't wait to find out how it all comes together. I would love to know what you think. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 6, Small Folk. Can't wait to speak to you next week for Episode 7. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.